Welcome back to the Monetize Your Magic Summit, and I'm happy to present Xander Sprague. Xander is an award-winning public speaker, Amazon bestseller, and licensed professional clinical counselor. His mission is to help millions of people make epic choices that create an epic life. Drawing on his decades of work experience with companies of all sizes, his education, and events in his own life, Xander guides people to achieve epic. With his talks, books, and courses, he helps people fulfill their potential and achieve their dreams. Let's see. Xander has a master's degree in mental health of arts in history and psychology from Pitzer College, and he is a member of the National Speakers. Xander loves speaking to audiences around the world, nicknamed the God of Enthusiasm because of his contagious energy, passion, and he is a popular speaker, trainer, and podcast host. So Xander, welcome, and it's great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, I think when we're talking about monetizing our magic for entrepreneurs, and as they're always told, dream big or, create this life. And sometimes people, well, where do I start? So I would love to hear more about your journey and how you came into your line of work.
Well, it's interesting. I really think all of this started when I was actually really young. I grew up in Massachusetts. My father was a state legislator. So I was in front of people, adults, from a very young age. So I think when I look back, I go, I love public speaking. I love talking to people. And so, I went to college. I worked in the corporate world for 22 years, spent 17 of that as a technical instructor. I taught people how to use software and stuff. So I think I've always been sort of naturally a teacher. I think now I'm curious about the world and I want to share that with everyone. And having worked in, startups and big companies and living in the Bay Area, working in Silicon Valley, I was all the different adjectives we have for being laid off, downsized, repurposed, outsourced, all of that. I had this epiphany probably about 10 years ago where I was like, why am I teaching other people's stuff when I have my own stuff? And I took that really epically brave step to say, I'm just going to go do it. And so here I am. I'm so excited about what I do. Every day I get up and it's awesome to be doing what I'm doing. I do want to say, I don't have all the steps down, but I just know that if I take one step today, then I'm on my way. I'm moving forward.
Yeah. And I like to hear that. I think as many entrepreneurs it's like they focus on the end result of like, this is what this business is going to be, and not realizing that it's not a magic wand that waves and overnight you're going to have, 5,000 person email list and this and the thriving. That'd be great if it happens like that, depending on, but there's strategy and it takes time and there's steps. There are steps. And
there are steps. I mean, drawing from my own past experience, I've run 10 half marathons, 4 fulls, and a 50K ultra. Now, when I started off on that, I thought, I've always wanted to run a marathon, but I had no idea how on earth I would ever cover 26.2 miles. Luckily, I joined Team in Training, which is a fundraising arm for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and they handed me this awesome thing called a training schedule. So I didn't have to worry about how I was going to get there. I'd look at it and it says, go run 30 minutes. So I would go run 30 minutes. And then, I just had to follow those steps. What I discovered in that and what I've discovered in my work and working with people and stuff is people in general really like structure. It makes us feel comfortable, right? So create structure on your journey. Because if you have structure, you understand what you need to do. Look, I get it. I have 101 things that I need to do each and every day. And frankly, most of them have to happen now. But I've also discovered that as much as we would love to say that we can multitask, I have yet to meet the person who can write an email with their left hand, and write a book with their right hand. You just can't do it. We really can only do one thing well at a time. So I think creating structure for yourself is so important because it makes it so much easier, right? I mean, Meredith, I get a question. Do you get stressed when you have to drive to the supermarket?
No.
No. Why? Because you know where to go. There's structure. I know I need to go out, go left, go right, whatever.
Yeah.
Imagine you got in your car, and this is sort of our entrepreneurial journey, and we just start driving, but we have no idea. We know where we want to get to, and we take a left, we take a right, we go straight, whatever. Maybe we'll get there if we get really lucky. But wouldn't it be so much better if we had just at least a semblance of a plan?
Yeah, a training schedule.
Yeah, exactly. Look, and I do, and I actually really employ that, where I know on a given day, here's what I'm working on, here's the time I'm working on it, and here's how long I think it's going to take me to do. It just reduces that stress level that I think we all have. Because you're like, I know what to do. There's comfort in the structure.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is the challenge, which is one of the reasons I'm hosting this summit was, when I was a Reiki practitioner, newly trained, an intuitive reader and hypnotist, there was no such thing. Nobody was out there marketing a business program. Facebook didn't have Facebook business pages yet. Instagram wasn't a thing. Social media was still kind of in the personal phases, not in the professional phases. And so I think with this explosion of social media, I think more people know who to go to ask for help. But when I first began, it was like, okay, I have all these certifications, I have these gifts, but I don't know where to drive my car. I don't know how to make my Reiki practice profitable. I don't know how to take this sound healing to I don't know. So I just I did the steps, but I would always constantly find myself back in the same place, having to work a day job, pissed off that I was working a day job, exhausted, burnt out. And then, of course, only happy when I was working on my business, but then having to go to work the next day. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think, there's so much that goes into running your own business. And there are setbacks. I'm not here to say it's all sunshine and rainbows. It isn't. There's the stuff that we're all excited, a new tool, a new something that we think is really going to work, and people are going to, discover me. And it just doesn't work as well, or it's not the right tool for you. And that honestly happens. But I think the way that we view all of that is key to what we're doing. Yeah, we fail, but that gives us a valuable lesson of how not to do it, right? Oh, that didn't work, right? I think it's that mindset. And there are two words that I'm gonna hammer a lot because I think they're so important. Not yet.
I like that. I'm gonna write that down.
Not yet is so powerful because for you, is my Reiki business going? Not yet. If you just said no, there's such a hard stop there.
Yeah.
It ends. It's a brick wall. But not yet leaves it open that you're working on. And all of us are working on our business and who we are. And if you remind yourself that not yet it should be your passenger on this journey. It really should be. It should be right there beside you, because not yet will help you in those times where you're pissed off because you have your day job. Not yet. It is happening. There is the stuff. When I was training for the marathon, that was a not yet. When I was doing my master's and then my 3,000 hours of internship so I could get my license, that was a very long not yet. I was on the path. I wasn't discouraged, but it just took time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think entrepreneurs, when they look at advancing in their careers, whether it's, in mental health or whether it's, going back to school. I know for myself, when I was transitioning from becoming a practitioner to an instructor, Like, it was like, hey, by the way, you got to invest X amount of hours and X amount of time and take this class over and over and over again. I remember thinking, this is just, it was overwhelming. But I remember I broke it into steps. I was like, let me just break this down into a strategy of how to approach it.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, I'll go back and talk about my marathon strategy. So when I went to go run my marathon, okay, no matter how you dice it, 26.2 miles is a very long way.
A long time.
It is. And when you're doing it on foot, it's really far. And so there were things that I had. So I had milestones along the way. So my first goal was to get to 13.1 miles, because then I am halfway through. So everything else is now ticking itself down towards my finish. Then it was 17 miles. Why? Because now I'm in single digit miles left. I only got 9 miles left. Then it was mile 20. Well, I make it to mile 20 and I'm like, I only have 6.2. I got 10K left. I got this. And then the excitement starts, because I'm counting down the miles until I get to 26. And then I only have 0.2, which, by the way, could be the longest part of that race. I see the finish line, but it's way down there. But that really mentally helped me be in the right space, because, if I'm running and I'm at mile 3, I'm like, oh my God, I've got 23 more miles to go. Yeah. That's really, and on our entrepreneurial journey, there are those steps. And if you break it down and say, look, here it is. It's, I just came out with a book, and part of what I talk about in Epic Begins with One Step Forward is what I call the pizza analogy. Do you like pizza?
Yeah, I love pizza.
I love pizza too. How do you eat a pizza?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time, one slice at a time, right? Now, yeah, technically you could, shove the whole thing in your mouth, but that's not how you do it. So why are we as entrepreneurs not using the pizza analogy to say, I got to do this one slice at a time, one bite at a time, because that's the only way I can do it. And when you do it, you find that it feels a lot more manageable. You feel much more in control.
Yeah. Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think some entrepreneurs, I look at it as if you try to run the marathon like a sprint, if you sprint that first, I'll make this up, mile,
yeah,
then you're going to have to rest on mile 2, 3, 4, 5. You're walking, or you're pedaling. You're going to plod. You're going to plod.
Well, right. And look, I mean, I'm always really upfront, because this is not an elite marathoner body. Okay, I'm honest about it. I did a walk run strategy. I can tell you that I was fortunate to be able to run the 2014 Boston Marathon, which was incredible. I grew up watching it. It was a holy grail moment for me. But Boston, being that it's Boston and they've always done stuff this way, that marathon, I didn't start running until noon. Most marathons you start running like early in the morning so that you get done before it gets too hot.
Yeah.
And it was kind of warm. So there was maybe a little more walking just because the heat was affecting me. But it didn't matter. I was still moving forward towards my goal. And you're right. There are the days where, boy, it seems easy and it's all flowing and you're just knocking stuff off. And there are the other days where you got to write something. Maybe you want to do a social media post and you are staring at the screen and it's kind of like the TV station's off and it's just like, there's just fuzz and nothing, and you can't, and that's okay. That happens. We take steps forward. Sometimes we meet a roadblock. But here's a funny thing about roadblocks that I want people to think about, right? A lot of times the roadblocks that we say are roadblocks are actually a mirage. We put them up in front of ourselves, but they don't actually exist. Oh, I can't go out and open up my Reiki business until I know that I have 5 clients. Yeah. Really? You can't do that, Meredith? No, you put that in front of yourself.
Yes.
I can't go out and speak until I know that I'm speaking to, 300 people in a room. The only way I'm going to do it is just go out and start to do it. And the funny thing is, a lot of times when we just take that step, that first step, we discover it wasn't nearly as hard as we want. I think so often, especially in sort of the the healing, mental health, healthcare industry, we think about all the steps that we need to take, and they are important, but we get overwhelmed and we frankly are stuck. Oh, I've got to get all of this done before I can do, and no, right? You don't. Another thing is, don't be afraid to ask for help. I don't know about you, but I've spent way too many hours trying to solve a problem. And then when I ask someone else, finally, they have the solution in 5 minutes. And I think, wow, there's an hour I'll never get back. And I could have had, Meredith had that answer because I just reached out and said, hey, I'm really trying to figure this out. Oh, hey, I solved that last week. And here,
Yes, I hear this a lot. I think websites are one for entrepreneurs that I always see in like the biofield tuning groups. If someone says, I've been trying to do my own website, and this is just so hard. And I remember I spent hours trying to build my own websites before websites were more, click and drag, drop. And I remember finally someone just said, sometimes you just have to delegate. You just have to go to the person who is the expert. You cannot be, you may be an expert, maybe be good at a great Reiki practitioner, but you may not be an optimal coder, and that's okay. Like,
absolutely,
we have people for that.
Absolutely. And absolutely. I can't agree more with, know what you're good at, play to your strengths, and understand that although we're supposed to, as entrepreneurs, be able to do it all, there's the stuff that I can't do. Yeah. I may be able to do it, but it will take me a lot longer than someone else.
Yes.
Technically, I could probably change the oil in my car, right? It's not, super hard, but it's much quicker and efficient if I go bring it to an oil change place because they have all the tools and they know what they're doing. Or you want to build your website, you just go find someone who that's their job.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Frankly, it probably end up looking a little better.
Yeah, and I think it removes those barriers that people are, but if I just had this website figured out, or if I could just get my business license with City Hall, it's like, well, ask someone who's gotten their business. I remember when I was hanging my shingle and I was doing hypnosis and I could not get a business license. City of Alexandria, Virginia was just like a pain in the ass. And finally, I picked up the phone. I called another hypnotist and said, hey, it was actually Jason Lynette, one of my mentors, said, hey, how do I get my business license? This is really hard. And he basically said, this is why there's red tape. This is what you need to do. And this is the way you have to present the information.
Yep.
I could have sat there banging my head against the wall. I just pick up the phone.
And how many hours did you, or days did you spend, spinning your wheels? Yeah. And the answer was right there already.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And in the form of, the answer can sometimes, I think, is acknowledging the answer can come through a person or an experience or someone who is an expert at whatever it is that it, or just has already been through it. And I think as entrepreneurs, I think there is this, like you said, there is sort of this fear or assumption that they must do it all by themselves. So as you were transitioning from I don't know what your transition was like, but what would you say were maybe any of the internal beliefs or fears or mindsets that maybe you had in, leaving your previous line of work? Or leaving or transitioning it?
I think transitioning was more, a lot of it was, although I am my number one cheerleader, I believe in myself unfailingly. I think we all understand what we're good at, what we're not good at, and so understanding and saying, yeah, I'm not as good at this. I need to have this. And I actually hadn't really at that point, it was probably 2 years before I started doing the marathoning that I rediscovered my affinity for creating structure in my life. That for me, it just reduces so much of that stress to say, I know what I need to do and I know when I'm doing it. And so I would sit and go, start work and be like, oh my gosh, all right, I got to do some LinkedIn posts and I got to do some Instagram posts and I got to do some Facebook posts. And I'd sort of be halfway. I'd start like so many different things, but never really complete what I wanted. I get to the end of the day and go, well, I didn't really achieve all that much. I didn't push myself forward. If you don't believe with all of your being in what you're doing, how is someone else supposed to believe in you? You know, if you're not your number one cheerleader, if you don't believe so passionately in what you're doing, how is someone else going to believe that you know what you're doing? And there is a little fake it till you make it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you have to step off the cliff, and you have to commit 100%, because it's frankly easier to commit 100% than it is 97%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you've ever look, I've had part-time jobs and stuff, and I found part-time jobs much harder than a full-time job because I'm trying so hard to get all of this work done in that 4 hours or 3 hours or whatever.
Yes.
And inevitably, I had 8 hours of work I was trying to get done in 4 hours. And that's really hard and really stressful.
Yes, I think we're going to see, I think it's in the general world, especially with, certain different people's views on the economy. It's like employers, I see this, I used to work in HR. People say things, okay, we're going to hire someone, but they're going to basically be 3 jobs in one.
Yeah.
And they think that they're saving money, but it's like, well, you're actually stressing this person out as they're trying to meet, they're really doing a job that is meant for 3 people, not one.
Yeah.
But I like how you said structure, because I think that many entrepreneurs I think they don't know how to create structure. That was a big challenge for me. It was like, well, I remember feeling directionless. I was like, well, if I had direction, I could create structure in my day of what and how I should be working in my business. What should be my focus? But two, I kind of look at it as like being in a swimming pool, and like little kids, they have their floaties taken off and they're in the deep end for the first time. But there are still some kids who are like, I'm going to hang on to the edge of the pool, even because I don't have my floaties, and they'll swim out like halfway, but they'll go right back to the wall. And so I think I know for myself, for many years, I would sort of see myself hanging on to that edge of the swimming pool. Like I would always go back to that comfortable day job because it provided structure, it provided insurance, predictable income. And that was what I needed at that time. But like you said, at some point, there was a transition of, I just got to swim to the other side. I got to get there. But, so I did, here I am, 100% full time inside, my practice, and I love it. And, but it definitely, I think there's that angst of when things are okay. Obviously I look at it from the perspective of, if you're having trouble meeting your bills and basic quality of life needs, you make some decisions, but if it's,
absolutely. But also get creative. Think about things that you can do that let people know what you're doing. Look, you may have the greatest, practice in the world, and I don't doubt that. But if people won't buy a product, no matter how badly they need it, if they don't know it exists.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where you can get really creative with what you're doing. So, for example, I have a magnet just that I had made at Signs Plus that has my website on the back of my car. Why? Because I'm driving around. It didn't cost me like, I don't know, like $20, but now I'm advertising. I haven't wrapped my whole car or anything.
Yeah.
But I'm doing that because people might get curious about what I'm doing and go to the website, and then they go, oh my gosh, this is great. We all talk about marketing. Marketing is not my huge forte. but I do seem to have this ability to think about the sort of those, I don't want to say guerrilla marketing, but like sort of those just passive ways of marketing yourself so that people know what you're, who you are and where you are, and get people curious about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, and I look at that when you're saying get curious. When I began, I was part of a business networking group, and I was the only. We had a wellness team, we had a massage therapist, we had we sometimes had an acupuncturist, we had someone who did a health and wellness MLM. But what I did was very unique because it was not working. It's not always working in the tangible. And so anytime I would go to a networking group, I'd have 5 or 6 people. I'm like, oh my God, I have a sister who does Reiki, or I have a brother-in-law who had Reiki. The people would just find a way to connect it, but then still the curiosity. But it meant going into a space that wasn't a yoga studio, wasn't into another Reiki practice, it was going to where people that did what I did weren't, which of course in the DC metro area at that time, there really weren't. And then there kind of was like an explosion of people, but it was sort of like being a pathfinder, because it was like, well, I was one of the very first Reiki practitioners that was going out in a business networking group. The rest of them were like, well, I don't know. I don't want people to see me for who I am. But it was like, hey, we need to bring our gift into the world. That is people, people being exposed to what we do. So I love that, getting creative, going where we're not,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love that. What would you say was like the game changer in like your transition? Like, was it a strategy? Was it a mindset? Was it a combination or an offering? Like, was it a combination of things?
I think it was having one, believing myself, but also having the support network to one, keep me accountable, and two, encourage me. We don't need, look, there are plenty of naysayers out there. I like to call them negative Nellies and Nelsons, who tell you, they'll tell you 100 reasons why you aren't going to be successful or why it won't work or whatever. But we don't need to listen to that. Right? And honestly, the meanest person in your life is you. Stop it. Right?
Yeah.
We say the meanest things to ourselves. Think about that. Like, imagine your best friend said one of the things that you say to yourself today. How would you feel? You'd be devastated.
Yeah.
Right? And I think another thing was I came up with, and I was a psychology and history major, so I guess I think about history and I look back and I go, I've got what I call the 97-3 rule, which is really important, which is 97% of our day is actually really good. Up to 3% is not as good. Okay, now yes, there are those days where we just have a really crappy day. I get that. I'm not denying that. But in general, our days are pretty good. So if that's the case, why are we focusing on the 3% that wasn't so good? And in my internship, I was working in school-based. So I was with middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
I know. A lot of good training there, let me tell you. But
yes.
A lot of my clients, academics was an issue. And I'd ask them, what's your least favorite subject? A lot of them said math. I'm like, okay, I get you. I really didn't like math. And I said, how would you feel if you got a 97 on your next test? Oh my God, I'd be so excited. That'd be awesome. I'd be telling everyone. I go, would you be complaining about the 3 points you didn't get? Are you crazy? Well, that makes my point. Why are you focusing on the 3% of your day that didn't go so well and ignoring the 97% that did go well? That just doesn't, I don't get that.
Yeah.
I like baseball. I'm not a rabid fan, but I like baseball. But this is where the history comes in, right? People who make it into the Hall of Fame have a lifetime batting average of over 300. That's Hall of Fame. That means they got it right about 33% of the time. Imagine today, Meredith, if you were successful, if you worked for, let's say you're working for 9 hours today, and you only had to get it right for 3 hours, and it's a Hall of Fame day for you. Oh my gosh. Maybe we're not looking at stuff the right way. Maybe we need to really look at the stuff we are doing well, that we did accomplish. It's fine to acknowledge the stuff that say, I really wanted to get this done and I didn't get it done. But be a little gentler with yourself. And also just like recognize all the great stuff you did today, because we're all doing awesome stuff.
Yes. Yes. I love how you said support network as well. I love everything you just said. And when you say the support network, when you said other entrepreneurs, like where could they go for those who are listening who don't have a support network yet? Where would they go to find one?
Well, I mean, we've mentioned the internet. You know, there's lots of. I mean, look, there are lots of on Facebook or LinkedIn. There are those like-minded people. You could probably find a group there. Your friends and family, right? They believe in you, and make sure that you say, here's what I'm doing. And be specific when you ask for help, right? People want to help you. Your friends and family want to help you. In general, I think people want to help other people, but if we're not specific in what we're asking, it's not going to happen. So for example, you wanted a speaker. You had to ask for a speaker to come in, and I was sort of, you asked a friend of mine, she was busy, she referred me, I wrote you an email and said, hey, maybe I'd be a fit for you, right? It's a big ask. Hey, you don't know who I am, but hey, can I come speak?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But I think if we have that and we're specific about what we're asking for, I think all too often, hey, can you help me? Well, what are you asking for my help? If you're specific, I can say, yes, I can, or I can help you this much, or no, I'm not able to do that, right?
Yes.
And so I think, you mentioned it might have been BNI, Business Network International. I did that years ago. Yeah. Fabulous. I really can't say enough about it. And really helps you change your mindset about how referrals work and how to, I learned so much about what a good referral was and getting cute. And, but you should be telling everybody what you do, right? What I personally do is I'll ask someone what they do, and most times social norm they'll ask me, which gives me an opportunity to say, here's what I do. Because I have no idea who's interested in what I'm doing. So I just got to tell everyone.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's definitely a thing that I hear with practitioners in my field who are intuitive readers, Reiki practitioners, depending on where they are in the country and, depending on the politics or religion or whatever might be dictating that environment, is there's sort of this fear of being seen. But what I hear a lot of is like, well, I don't know how to describe this to this person. I'm like, well, you learn a way. You are part of the process is learning how to communicate what you do and how you do it. And maybe you don't know the how. You can just say, I don't know how this works, but here we go. And it does, which is why people have testimonials.
Right.
So I think that's part of that hanging the shingle journey is putting yourself out there.
You practice saying, what do I do? Getting down that elevator pitch that lets people know what you're doing. And look, if you can't explain, if you're not clear in your mind what it is that you're offering, it's really challenging for someone else to buy it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'm in the process right now where I hit that wall of task. I know I'm good at what I do. I know I'm really capable and skilled. And now the next step is communicating that. And that's sort of the process. Part of this summit has been radically expanding the throat chakra energy center, because it's like, I have now no choice but to be speaking, being seen, being heard.
And practicing what you're like, again, out there, and we're all going to stumble on it, right?
Yes.
That person who has that really concise, elevator pitch where you're really clear about what they're selling, right? That didn't happen just by happenstance. It happened because they worked really hard trying different ways of saying it and seeing what people reacted to and what was sticking, right?
Yes.
You think about advertising memes and stuff like that, things that we say, oh, I know what that person's selling, right? That's the whole point of advertising. So for example, this goes years back, but Federal Express or FedEx had a thing when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. Now you knew exactly what they were selling. I got it, right?
Yeah.
If I can't explain what, epic journeys are and how I help people achieve their epic and step into their epic, I'm not going to be successful. So I've been working really hard. I've been doing a lot of talking about it. I talk to myself about it. I say it out loud. Say it out loud. Write it down and then practice saying it. Because when we practice, practice makes perfect. It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. My cat is crying in the background. Hopefully Zoom will tune it out. Hopefully it's not being heard. Great. So I love all of that. The belief in self, practicing, how to communicate, telling everyone. I like that. Because I think also too, it's like there's something to be said of as you begin to speak about it, we also begin to claim that identity, that new identity for ourselves as an entrepreneur. So Xander, talk about your free gift and where to find you.
All right. Well, the free gift is I just came out with my book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, How to Plan, Achieve, and Enjoy the Journey. And you can go, it's available on Amazon Kindle. That's my free gift. You can go download it. And, I hope that everyone takes a read. I am told by people who have read it that it's, that it's full of lots of good information and practical steps that you can take. That's my whole point. If you want to get a hold of me, you Google Xander Sprague, and that's ZanderSprague. You'll find me, XanderSprague.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Epic Begins. Yeah, I mean,
wonderful.
You can find me, and I'm so excited to help people step into their epic and make epic choices to have the epic life that you're all dreaming about.
Awesome. Thank you. I love that. And if you could give any listener with a side hustle a lasting piece of advice, say they're in the day job or they're hoping to make that transition or just make more money in their business, what would that be?
I'm going to give you here's what it is. What EPIC stands for to me. Every pilgrimage involves commitment. Think about that. Now, I know pilgrimage might elicit a religious thing, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your pilgrimage to do what it is that you want to do. It does involve commitment. And if you just keep that in mind and you keep in mind not yet's going to be so helpful in that thing, in this journey, because if you go, not yet. Have you gotten your license? Not yet. Do I have 5 clients? Not yet. I don't know about you. I mean, when you think of not yet, how does that make you feel, Meredith?
Feels open. Sort of feels like a closed door, but not yet feels it's more expansive.
It is. Yeah. It's more expansive. For me, it's so uplifting to say, I'm a work in progress. I'm working on this. And I'm going to get there.
Yes.
Just not yet.
I love that. Well, thank you, Xander, so much. It was wonderful to interview. All your nuggets, your golden nuggets were really great. I think they're just small. I think people can implement any or all of them at one time and just taking with them the not yet. And I love that pilgrimage as a commitment. Really love that. Well, thank you so much. Thank you again. And we will be connecting again soon.
You bet. Thanks so much.
Thanks.